Hello and welcome in to this week's episode of JP26. We are going to do things a little bit differently today than we've been doing them in the past. Typically, last year I would film these episodes and then release them Wednesday morning for you guys. But I'm going to be honest with you, that's a lot of editing, and I don't have much of a life, okay? Because I don't have time. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut some things down this year. I'm gonna review the games. I'm still gonna do the six storylines, but this time I'm just gonna do them live for you guys. I perform better live anyway, right? Here with the people. So for those of you who want to tune in every week, that would be great. I would highly appreciate that. I have decided that I will be doing this Wednesdays at noon Eastern time every Wednesday for you guys. So I will make a little graphic for that. Um, excuse me, not Wednesday, Tuesday uh, at noon Eastern time, which is right now. So that is how we're going to do things from here on out. I may switch that to 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll see. But for right now, that is what we got going on. So it is a pleasure to have any of you here that are here. For those of you who know me from all different walks of life, you know how much I love sports. And most of all, how much I love football. Now, I love every sport. You guys know me. But football is my first love. That is what got me into sports in the first place. That is what I feel that I know the most about. And so I want to share some of those things that I see with you guys. So I have picked up six different things that I wanted to go over. Some have to do with things I predicted, some have to do with how I thought things were going to go, how I didn't think things were going to go, what actually played out, all the above. So let us go through those things now. We are in week one, and the first thing that caught my eye, or one of the things that caught my eye, I should say, is going to be Russell Wilson's performance against the Commanders, which I'm sure, as many of you know, was not really great. And I don't know how long he's going to be able to hold off this kid, Jackson Dart. Um, I really liked the way that the Giants defense played. I don't think a lot of people understand that when you're in a contest like they were in, where your offense is literally doing nothing, how hard it is for a defense to actually perform to a decent level. I don't think a lot of people understand that. They did. They performed really well despite the circumstances. And ultimately, it didn't really matter because their offense couldn't do shit and they would end up taking the loss. And a lot of that, I think, fell on Russell Wilson. But I think a lot of that also fell on a lot of the things that were going wrong with that offense. It's not just Russell Wilson, but certainly Russell Wilson was not making life any easier for the Giants. I don't know how long he's got until this kid Jackson Dart comes in, but I am hoping that the Giants wait until about week 5. Because what I would like to see for a rookie is to not be thrown straight into the league's best defenses, which, granted, he's going to end up having to play anyway because the Giants' schedule is pretty brutal with the defenses that they have to play all year. However, I think it would be good for the kid to at least put him in there against a team that he can build some confidence, in. I think every NFL defense is pretty good, especially maybe not the Bengals. You guys know what I'm saying. But I think every NFL defense is probably more complicated than anything he ever saw in college. So you want to kind of ease his way into it as much as you possibly can, and that's why things like the preseason and training camp are also important. But when you actually get to the part where you're gonna have to throw him in, this is where you kind of want to, you don't want to throw him directly against the Packers, right? And I'm sure you guys know this. We're gonna get to the Packers later today. We do have to talk about them as well, but I do think that you want to put him in against a team like the Saints, week 5. We'll see if Russell Wilson can maybe get his stuff together. Obviously, it's just week one. He's just getting on a new team. There's plenty of different things that the Giants could do to turn their offense around before it even needs to get to the point where you throw Dart in. But let's just say worst case scenario happens and the offense continues to struggle. I do think at that point, week five for Jackson Dart versus the Saints would be a great idea. And this team, it has weapons. I mean, their offensive line needs work for sure. They still need to do a little bit more work there, but I don't think it's as bad as people think. And certainly when you have Malik Neighbors as your number one receiver, you're gonna be able to work off that in a way, right? Like he's gonna be able to draw so much attention that you should have some other guys that are able to show their abilities because they're not getting as much attention. So hopefully those things will fix for the Giants. But that defensive line that they have is so good, and they showed there was I think a couple plays where they showed they absolutely dominated um, the offensive line of the Commanders. They will all eat their blocks on the same play. Now it's not going to happen every play, and certainly it's going to take some more time for this whole team to come around. But I still like the Giants at better than 5.5 wins on the year, and I know people might think I'm crazy for that, but I just can't see a team with that talented of a defense not getting in enough together to win 6 games. And let's make no mistake about it. Even though the Giants and Russell Wilson looked pretty bad yesterday, they were also playing the team that was in the NFC Championship last year who are supposed to be on the come up, right? So it's not like they were playing some bums out there and looked like this. Um, I think you got to give a lot of credit to Jaden Daniels. You got to give a lot of credit to that front office of the Commanders for putting together the defense they did. They have a lot of smart veterans on that defense, a lot of guys who are very well versed in not making the critical mistakes that are going to lead to big plays for offenses. In today's NFL, that's really important, right? It's not just, oh, let's go get the sacks and let's go cause the big plays. That's great, but you also want to limit the explosive plays of the offense. And I thought that the Commanders did a really good job of that, whether that's because the Giants are just pitiful on offense or because their defense is a lot better than even it was last year remains to be seen. But that for me is my number 6 storyline is how long does Russell Wilson have until this kid Jackson Dart takes over? Now, part of the problem that Russell Wilson's going to have is that let's take a guy that's not necessarily built like Russell Wilson. In fact, he's not at all. But they have somewhat of a comparable. y- I'll get to it. Ben Roethlisberger. So clearly, these guys are different quarterbacks. Russell Wilson used his legs in his earlier career to actually use his speed and agility to get out of the pocket. Ben's ability with running more came from the fact that he would just shrug defenders off of him. Um, but the reason that Ben's game aged so gracefully is that even in his later career, despite not having as much agility and quickness as he had in his younger career, he was still a big man that was able to shrug defenders off of him, right? Russell doesn't really have that to fall back on. Now, granted, Russell is faster than Ben Roethlisberger was later in his career, but he's not ridiculously fast anymore. He's not really that quick anymore. So those kind of superhero traits that Russell had when he was younger of being able to kind of maneuver and use his athleticism and his quickness to get himself out of bad situations, that doesn't exist as much for Russell. And so with a lot of quarterbacks as they get older and lose their athleticism, what replaces the athleticism? Well, it has to be decision making. It has to be the timing. It has to be all of the little fundamental things that quarterbacks were typically known for once upon a time, that has to develop, right? That place where Josh Allen started, where Lamar Jackson started, and where they are now, we can all agree they are completely different quarterbacks from a throwing standpoint than they were when they were rookies. They're much better. So even if Lamar Jackson loses his legs, even if Josh Allen loses his legs, are their offenses going to be as effective as they are now? Of course they wouldn't. But they would certainly be comparable NFL quarterbacks because they both see the field very well at this point and throw with great timing and accuracy. Russell is still struggling with that. And I'm not sure if that's because he's just got happy feet now, if he doesn't trust that Giants offensive line, if he's just been through too many different systems in his career. I'm not exactly sure what's going on with Russell, other than the fact that I know that he basically doesn't have nearly the same mobility he had once upon a time, and that is leading to his actual quarterback play to be pretty poor, and it's putting the Giants in a position where they are going to have to think about putting Dart in sooner rather than later. Um, because as much as us fans, we want to talk about, oh, let's build for the future, let's build this kid up, we got to do it the right way, we got to all of those things. There is 50 some odd other guys on that roster and a litany of coaches that are riding on this season's success. So if you see Russell in there and he can't function as a quarterback, there comes a point where you have to get the next guy in there. Now, maybe they just throw Jameis in there and see what's going on there and continue to let Dart develop. I doubt it. I think they would throw Dart in there first, but that is the reality is that he's going to have to show something in these next couple weeks to hang on to his job. At least some kind of improvement from that week one performance. Otherwise, that kid Dart is going to get in there sooner rather than later. Once again, my early money is that Dart will be in there week 5. I think Russell will continue to struggle. He might look a little bit better in these next couple weeks, but I think he'll regress. And if he does come back up, I think he'll regress back down. And I think that at some point, Dart's getting in there, and I'm going to call it week 5. So that is the number 6 thing that stood out for me this week, was how bad I still like the Giants to win over 5.5 games that the early line had them in the year. Call me crazy for that, but that defense just to me is too good for them to lose that many games. I can't see it. And I think if that kid Dart gets in, that might kickstart some things real quick. So we will see how that ends up playing out. But that to me is the number 6 storyline. Let's get on to the number 5 storyline. By the way, how is your guys' Tuesday going so far? Hope you guys are having a nice Tuesday, enjoying it. Sure, a lot of you guys are at work. But I appreciate you being here if you are. So let's go look at one of the other things that stood out to me from today, or I should say over the weekend with the games. And that is a couple of scores that surprised me. I did not think that the Raiders would open up with a win in New England against the Patriots. Probably should have, given the fact that they have Pete Carroll and Geno Smith on that team now with some weapons and all those things that they have going on the Raiders. And I was a bit surprised that the Seahawks ended up losing to the 49ers. Did not see that coming either. Now, of course, it's a long season, and by the end of the year, the Patriots could be a wild card team. The Raiders might be a top 5 pick, and you know the 49ers might lose the division to the Seahawks. We don't know what's going to happen. There's plenty of season to go. I personally had the Patriots as a better team coming into this year than the Raiders, and I had the Seahawks as a better team coming into this year than the 49ers. Now, it's not like either one was a blowout, but the reason why I had, for example, the Patriots over the Raiders is I thought Mike Vrabel would get that defense up to par pretty quickly. I thought that Drake May, showing what he showed at the end of last year, would come into the season and perform better than he had prior to that stretch that he had last year. He kind of regressed back. The Raiders looked really good. I hate to say that as a Chargers fan. I don't want them to be really good, but they did look really good. They have a couple of really good tight ends, Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer, and those two right there, when you have them on the field at the same time, they kind of create some mismatch problems, for teams because they have to defend them. You want to put extra DBs on the field so you can cover them? Well, they're probably just going to run on you with Janty, right? Well, you want to put some linebackers on the field to kind of stop that run with Janty. Well, now you got to deal with Brock Bowers and Michael Mayer getting downfield. So they do have something cooking over there with the Raiders. It looks better as a product than I thought it would. I don't know. What really surprised me was that the fact that they shut the Patriots offense down. Because I'll be honest, I think this Raiders defense is pretty bad, and I still think that there's going to be a couple games where Geno's going to have them in some, 30 point, 35 point, 40 point shootouts with teams in order for them to win the game. But at the end of the day, they got the win, and their defense looked good, right? Like we can say all we want about what they look like on paper not being good, but they performed pretty well. Will that be because the Patriots are just struggling? Will that end up being because it's just week one and they're working out the kinks? Maybe the Patriots are just a bad offensive football team. Maybe Drake May's a bust. We don't know. Time will tell. But I do know that it did surprise me that they went into Foxborough week one and took out the Patriots like that. And to be honest with you, even though the game itself ended up being only a one touchdown game, it didn't really ever feel like the Patriots had a great chance to win that game. It just felt like the entire time the Raiders were in control. So I hate saying that as a Chargers fan. Don't want the Raiders to be on the come up, but it does look like they are. Now, on the bright side, that does mean maybe they go out there and they take a win off Kansas City. You know what I'm saying? Because, hey, we can say whatever we want about Kansas City being 0-1 and the only 0-1 team in that AFC West, but that is still Kansas City, and they are still fucking dangerous. So that is what I think about that. Moving on to the 49ers and what I saw out of them. I thought coming into the year, once again, much like the Raiders, that their defense was going to struggle. They lost some guys on defense in free agency. Their defensive line isn't as good as it was a couple years ago when they made that Super Bowl run, which is why I had them not making the playoffs last year, and people called me crazy for that. And lo and behold, they didn't make the playoffs last year. Now, I still think that they're going to have a tough year. I could be wrong. They can go and win the NFC West, right? Like, I can totally be wrong. I could see that with this team. Don't get me wrong. But when I just look at the defensive line that they have, I'm just not impressed. Now, that rookie that they drafted in the first round, he actually looked pretty good. I don't know how much that's going to continue to move forward. I don't know if there's going to be other guys step up. There's all kind of injuries that can happen, right? The NFL season's crazy. But just going into the year, I didn't have the Niners being a great defensive team, and I thought that was going to limit what they could do. I also thought there were a couple injuries on offensive way from being in trouble. Now, of course, they just had Kittle go out, and their backup tight ends then ends up catching the pass to win the game, basically, right? So, there's always the teams that can draft well, and not only draft well, but develop those players. And the 49ers and that coaching staff have shown the ability to do that time and time again. So maybe, we shouldn't be surprised if they come out here and have a great year. Got to give them to them, though. They went in there, and they shut that Seahawks offense down. And if you're a Seahawks fan, you're wondering, which Sam Darnold am I getting? Am I getting that Viking Sam Darnold that was there most of the year last year? Or am I getting the Sam Darnold that I saw with the New York Jets? Am I getting the Sam Darnold that I saw at the end of the year with the Vikings, right? And I think that's the big questions for a Seahawks fan. I think that their defense played well enough for them to win that game. I don't think that their offense did enough. And I don't think that anybody would argue that. Not sure exactly what the Seahawks are going to have to do to turn it around. That offense is so new. There's no more DK Metcalf. It's now built around JSN, and you got Cooper Kupp, and you got Charbonnet and Walker and Darnold, and so I don't exactly know what to expect from this offense moving forward. I still really, really like the build of that defense, and I still really like them to ultimately finish. I don't want to say finish better than the 49ers, because I feel like that's crazy to go against them when the 49ers just went in there and beat them in Seattle, right? But when I still look at that roster, I feel like they have the better team for the length of the season. Now, we'll see how it plays out, and once again, maybe I'm wrong, but that is what I thought about that. So, shout out to the 49ers, shout out to the Raiders. You guys proved me wrong week one at least, coming out there and getting the win. So, I was impressed with both teams, and we'll see how all four of these teams handle things moving forward. Obviously, with the Raiders, Geno, with the Patriots, Drake May, Brock Purdy and the Niners, and then, of course, Sam Darnold and the Seahawks. There are a lot of different ways that this season can go, and there's a lot riding on it for all these teams. So we will see what happens from there. But let's move on to our next storyline. Once again, if you guys are new here, please like, subscribe, follow me on X. Some people think I'm funny. I'm probably just more funny looking than anything, but it does help me. And since I'm pretty selfish, I would like that. So if you could, appreciate it. But anyways, so let's move on to the next storyline. All right, another couple of storylines wrapped in one storyline for me here. Daniel Jones. I don't think I'm the only one that didn't see that performance coming. Now, these two storylines right here that are baked into one storyline is really just my not knowing what to do with the information that I just got. Right? Like, is Danny Dimes really this guy that's that good? Or did he just happen to go against a terrible Dolphins team? Like, how bad are the Dolphins really? We know they got rid of Jalen Ramsey. We know they still have that huge contract tied up with Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek Hill's not very happy. We see how bad that offensive line is. Tua can't be able to seem to get off his first read. It is bad over there in Miami, and I think everybody knows that. It feels like they're on their way to a top 5 pick. That's how it feels. In fact, it feels like they're on their way to the number 1 pick. I'm going to be completely real with you. That is what it feels like. A lot of season to go. A far cry from a couple years ago when they went in, when they were playing Denver and winning like what, fucking 70-0 or whatever the fuck that game was. This offense doesn't look like that anymore. Whatever has happened with losing their talent or people figuring out McDaniel's scheme or whatever the case may be, they don't look very good. And to have Danny Dimes come in there and really look like that's crazy to me. Now, maybe we've all slept on Danny Dimes for all this time. And look, coming into the year, my thought process was Russell Wilson upgrade over Danny Dimes. Danny Dimes going into Indianapolis. I don't see how that's going to make them a better team, right? Maybe the Giants are just that bad offensively. Maybe they're just so inept offensively that anybody you turn in there is just gonna look horrible. And as soon as you get Danny Dimes out of there, he pulls the Sam Darnold, Geno Smith on the other side of New York instead of the Jets on the Giants, comes out and becomes a great quarterback anywhere but New York. Maybe that's what's happening. Certainly, Danny Dimes has a lot of talent around him now. Tyler Warren, they got some skill position players. Alec Pierce, like you just saw. That offensive line is pretty good. They got some running backs, Jonathan Taylor, right? So the Colts' talent is there. It's just they haven't had the quarterback for a number of years now. Will Danny Dimes continue to be that guy? I have no fucking clue. I don't know if that's the guy we're going to continue to get against Miami or if Miami is just that fucking bad to where anybody would have looked like that. Maybe you guys know. Let me know in the comments what your opinion is on that. I still lean toward the fact that the Colts just have a really solid team around Danny. And so when they play a less talented team, he's going to be able to pick them apart. I think as soon as they start playing teams that can play actual defense, that can actually generate pressure and have guys covered up on the back end, I think as soon as you see Danny having to get off that first and second read, we're probably going to see the old Danny coming back. Once again, I could be wrong, but I'm going to go based off what I've seen in the past, and it has been that. So for me, that is one half of the story for this storyline. The other one is Aaron Rodgers, with the game going back to play the Jets, where he faced off against the former Steeler, Justin Fields, right? So I don't know what to make of this. I thought the Jets offense looked way better than it had in the past. And I thought the Steelers offense looked way better than it had in the past. So maybe It was a styles things, and these guys just needed to flip teams. Um, I also think that Aaron Rodgers got a little bit more on the stat line than he really deserved, right? Like a lot of that was just wide open plays. But again, coming into this year, if you guys know me, you know some of the things that I have said about this Steelers team coming into the year is that they have three legit tight ends. All right. And let's not act like that means nothing. Like that means something. Um, you can play three tight ends at the same time. Tight ends are really useful like that, right? Like that's just extra blockers on the field for your running back. So you go and you put DK Metcalf, I don't know what corner in the league is getting off that guy's block if he's blocking you downfield, that fucking freak. And then you have three tight ends on the field, two of which are very good pass catching tight ends, and Jonnu Smith, who's basically half, running back, right? Jonnu Smith, when the ball in his hands, he's a real playmaker. And then you get that receiving type tight end in Fryermuth, and then they have their blocking tight end as well, that big man. So I really like those three chess pieces that they're able to use, and then they have these other receivers that they can kind of sprinkle in through the lineup, more quick guys, um, and things of that nature. So all that looked really good, but maybe the Jets defense is just really bad. This is once again we're back to like how bad are the Jets? How bad is the Jets defense? Jets offense looked really good, right? Their defense not so much. Coming into the year, I think most people would have said, I think the Jets defense will probably look a lot better than their offense will. Maybe, maybe not great their defense, but they had some pieces there. They should look pretty decent, better than probably their offense is going to look with how they've looked the last couple of years. But no, um, defense actually played like shit, and their offense actually performed. So tough for me to really know. On the other hand, for the Steelers, you expect the Steelers defense to be able to handle the Jets offense of anything. And I get it. We got Brees Hall out there. We got, Garrett Wilson out there. There's Justin Fields causing problems with his legs. And maybe that's what they needed to open up Brees Hall and Braylon Allen and all those things. So, look at that. I mean, that's just a great throw. But also, he's pretty open and there's nobody on the back end. So, again, I don't know what's going on with the Steelers. Maybe they're just scared to get through their rush lanes to let Fields out of the pocket, so they were letting him have all day for that reason. But you don't typically see the Steelers allowing that little of a pass rush. So that was my thoughts on that. I don't exactly know what to think about Aaron Rodgers. I don't exactly know what to think about Danny Dimes moving forward. I do know I thought the Steelers were a dangerous team coming into this year, and I did not think that the Colts were a dangerous team coming into this year. Now, I'm not sure how dangerous the Steelers are because their defense didn't look great. And I'm not sure, uh, you know, let's give the Steelers defense a little bit of credit here. Jalen Ramsey did make some plays in crucial moments that would lead you to believe that come playoff time, um, he might actually, and that defense might actually be able to make some plays in those big moments that you really need in the playoffs, right? It's all about moments. So I don't want to completely sell on the Steelers defense. They did do some good things, but the Colts dominated in every facet. And my big wonder there is, are the Colts good or are the Dolphins that bad or is it a combination of both? And if so, what is that combination? So that's my storyline there. That is what I thought. Cheers if you guys have your coffee. Okay, so now let's move on to the storyline number 3. It ain't about the Chargers, really, guys. It's not. And I know you'd think that by this picture, but it's more about the Chiefs. I'm a Chargers fan. I get it. So I'm going to be biased, at times. I'm going to try not to be. But really, when I looked at this year, I had the Chiefs as the number one team coming out of the AFC. And the reason for that is simple. Sure, they didn't finish number one in the regular season last year, but who came out of the playoffs? Who almost always comes out of the playoffs for the AFC? It's the Chiefs. And also, I want to say something. You know, Everybody is already selling these Chiefs out. I'm not doing it. I'm not fucking doing it. All right? I won't. I'm a Chargers fan. I've seen this story too many fucking times. Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are unbelievable. Despite what the narrative is around Patrick Mahomes right now, there were a couple plays in that game where you watched Patrick Mahomes do something and you're like, what in the fuck is that? How do you make that play? Just like always, right? There were also some things that happened in that game that we can't ignore. Worthy did get injured early. That might have thrown their game plan off. In fact, I thought Worthy had a chance to be a Pro Bowler this year. I thought he was going to kind of take that next step and ascend to Patrick's number one guy, and they were going to finally get their weapon back. Maybe not to the level of Tyreek Hill, but they were going to get a big time weapon back that was going to make some noise around the league. That got shut down early with Mr. Swift fucking running into him and injuring him. So the Chargers go out there, they get a big time win. They look really good in the process. The defense, led by Jesse Mitchell, looked really good. I did think that the offensive line performed way better for the Chargers than a lot of people thought it would, given that Rashawn Slater had that injury. And we got to give a lot of credit to Joe Alt, right? Joe Alt, everybody wanted Malik Neighbors last year, right, for the Chargers when they were picking. The Chargers said, you know what? How about we go get this kid fucking Joe Alt? And guess what? That kid saved the season because he shut down whoever was on that left side. I don't care what play you look at. Watch Joe Alt, number 76 on that left side. He is absolutely fucking dominating his position. You don't see a lot of guys do that to Chris Jones. And Chris Jones lined up against Joe Alt on the outside a couple times and got absolutely stonewalled. He got fucking nowhere. And of course, Chris Jones at the end of the game, I think it was talked about a little bit, but not necessarily probably to the degree that it should have been, that Chris Jones lines up on the right side to try to take advantage of Trey Pipkins at the end of the game and ends up making that inside move, allowing Justin Herbert to get to the outside and pick up the first down that iced the game. That was the end of the game as soon as that happened. Chris Jones made a poor play, and you got to give the Chargers and Justin Herbert credit for making that play, but there is a part of me that goes, hey, we were in a tough spot. You know, they were about to get that ball back. Sure, we made the play, but had Chris Jones not made that mental error, are we making that play? Is that happening? I don't know. Um, Chris Jones does make the error. The Chargers take advantage of it. Justin Herbert takes advantage of it, and that's all you can ask, right? If the play is there and you see it, go make the play, and that's exactly what he did. So, got to give the Chargers credit on that, but I am still not sold on the fact that the Chiefs are cooked this year. I know they're the only 0-1 team in the AFC West. I know the Raiders look good. I know the Broncos look good. And I know the Chargers look good. I get all that. But they are still the Chiefs. The Chiefs is still the Chiefs until they prove they are not. And at the end of every year, besides the one year where the Bengals took them out, it just seems like the Chiefs end up in that fucking Super Bowl, right? That left tackle that they drafted didn't look great. He looked like he had some problems. Now, I'll be honest with you. He looked better than what the Chiefs have been throwing out there at tackle a lot of the, last couple years with all the injuries they've had and shit like that. But still, probably disappointing to a lot of Chiefs fans on what they ended up getting out of that left tackle. He's a rookie. He's got a lot of time to learn, and he's got all the traits to be a really good player. And as we know, tackles do take time to develop sometimes in the NFL. You go from those college pass rushers to these freaks that every NFL team has at their pass rushers, and look at that. They just have blocked by Joe Alt. Jeez Louise. But you go to these freaks in the NFL, you're going to struggle at times. Now, Joe Alt last year played really well for the Chargers. This year, he looks like a completely improved player. So, once again, clearly, these things can be improved and made better over time. So, that is what we got going on at my storyline is that even though everybody wants to claim that the Chiefs' kingdom is done and nobody is believing in them anymore, I am not ready to count them out yet. I don't think that they deserve that. I think they've proven enough times that they are extremely dangerous. So, still not sleeping on those Chiefs. For me. For me. All right. Let's move on to our next storyline. Micah Parsons. I don't think anybody's shocked at this one, guys. You trade for a great swing the field, football is a very complicated form of chess. And when you get a guy like Micah, that's like adding, it's like replacing a pawn for a queen, right? Seriously. Like they gave up 2 first-round picks, so they'll feel it in the future, of course. Eventually everybody pays. They can draft really well in the second and third rounds of their next couple of drafts, and nobody will know the difference, right? But for now, all they did was take a defense that was already a top 10 defense, and they added arguably the best defender in football. Arguably, right? Myles Garrett, make an argument for different guys like that. Patrick Surtain, I get it. But for sure the most versatile. I mean, I think you can line Mike up at corner if you wanted to. I think you can put him at safety if you wanted to. I think you can put him at linebacker if you wanted to. Middle linebacker, outside linebacker. Want to pass rush inside? How about outside? I don't think it matters with a guy like Micah. And that is absolutely terrifying. When you take a defense that was already top 10, take a defense, already top 10. Every single player on that 11-man defense, they combine to make a top 10 defense. Now you just go, I'm going to plug Micah here, or here, or here, or here, or here, or here, or here. And you can do that any play with any player. I think they're going to be a problem for teams all fucking year long. Before the year started, I had the Packers as just missing the playoffs, right? Just outside. I thought, man, the NFC North, man, you're going to have to deal with all these teams in the North, and then you got some other teams ascending. Like, they'll probably just... Jordan Love's healthy, and you got Mike on that defense. That defense, to me, is the best in the league. I cannot even compute to you guys how going from a top 10 defense, giving up nothing except for Kenny Clark and a couple first-round picks, and no disrespect to Kenny Clark. Kenny Clark's a good player. I'm not saying anything like that. But for Micah, holy shit. I mean, I don't know how you're not thinking Super Bowl right now if you're a Packers fan. You got to be thinking Super Bowl. The team's ready to go. I've been saying it for years. For those of you who were here last year, what did I tell you guys about these Packers? I said they remind me of the 49ers the year they went to the Super Bowl with the amount of weapons they have on offense. Because they don't have like the guy that you think of as like Jamar Chase or a Justin Jefferson, right? But they just have good weapons all over. Like Jacobs, Kraft, Musgrave, Reed, Golden now. Like there's just players. They just have a lot of them. And a lot of good after the catch guys. And a guy in a system where it's designed to work that way, and their offensive line is solid, and they got the quarterback that's mature, and he's ready to go, and he can use his legs, and he's got a huge arm, and now that defense is dominant. Like they scream Super Bowl team to me. And obviously, I'm probably not the only one thinking that. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are thinking that. But they do. They really do scream a Super Bowl team to me. They have that kind of a build, and that team seems ready to go. So, huge win for the Packers trading for Micah Parsons. Doesn't get any better than that for a team going into a year, for a morale boost, for a situational, for what you need, for giving up what they gave up, 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark. You could not ask for a better trade for a Packers fan. That's as prime as it gets. That's as good as you're ever going to get. Those 2 first-round picks might end up being picks in the late 20. They're probably going to be picks number 32 and number like 27, right? Or something like that. So, all in all, it's a great trade for the Packers, and it has worked out so beautifully. And on the other hand, for the Lions, I have a lot of friends who are Lions fans, and I told you guys coming into the year, I thought you guys were going to have a down year. And people called me crazy for that. Oh, they're still the Lions. They still have that offensive line. They still have that defense that's coming back. And I get it, but let's not act like Ben Johnson didn't matter. Let's not act like Aaron Glenn didn't matter. Like, these guys got head coaching positions for a reason. They didn't get them just because the Lions performed really well last year. No, they performed really well because of those guys too. So, I hope that Detroit gets it together and starts winning again. I really do. But Aiden Hutchinson didn't look like his old self. Maybe that'll take a while for him to get back to his normal self. That defense didn't look nearly as good as it did last year. That offensive line looked like it was having some problems. Yeah, and I don't think it's going to get any easier. Well, I shouldn't say that. It will get easier for any team that isn't the Packers. They're going to, they shouldn't have as hard of a time with those teams' defensive lines. But they're still not. I don't know that they're going to look like last year. I don't think that they're going to look like last year's team. That team looked so fucking good all last year, dominated through the regular season, and had it not been for a litany of injuries, they might have rolled through the playoffs too. But they did get a litany of injuries, and then they did lose their coordinators, and they did lose Frank Ragnow, right? These are things that happen. So, Detroit fans, Lions fans, I hope I'm wrong, but so far it would seem to me that you guys are probably going to be in for a much rougher year than you were last year. Will you make the playoffs? I don't know. I hope you make it as a wild card team, but as I said before the year started, I think that the Lions are now that first team out, and I still think that. So that is where we're at. That is storyline number 2. Off to storyline number 1. And this one, nobody's talking about this today. All right? Nobody's talking about this storyline. But I'm going to talk to you about it because it pisses me off. All right? We're going to talk about it. The intent was for the ball to go through the end zone, says Ben Johnson. And here we are, just talking up Ben Johnson, talking about how good that offense was. Well, last night they came out firing, and then at the end of the game, they just sputtered and went absolutely nowhere. They just got shut down the rest of the game. But this story isn't about any of those things. It's not about how their offense was good and then came bad and then how the momentum changed and they choked it away, all that stuff. One specific thing. They kicked the ball to the other team to waste the clock, to let them waste the clock. And it cost them the game. And nobody seems to be making a big enough deal out of this. Do the Bears end up winning that game if they get 50 seconds on the clock? I don't know. Maybe not, right? They might make the plays that get down the field. They might not. But the point is, it's an unforced error. They tell you in the rules, if you kick the ball through the back of the end zone, it comes out to the 35-yard line. If you kick it straight out of bounds, it comes out to the 40. What's the difference? 5 fucking yards? 5 yards is the difference. And you decided to try to kick it to the back of the end zone. Hey, buddy, kick it the fuck out of bounds. Let him have the 40. It's the same shit. You're still going to get pinned inside the 10, right? You're getting pinned inside the 10 either fucking way. What's the real difference? Going from 10 seconds left in the fucking game to 50. Everybody that knows anything about football knows that if you go for a drive, no timeouts, you have no timeouts, but you need to get all the way down the field with an offense with a guy like Caleb Williams. Say whatever you want about how Caleb played in the end of the game and not making the plays. That's the type of quarterback you need to get down the field in a hurry. Somebody who can get out of the pocket and make big-time plays down the field. You have the guy, right? You don't just have a fucking statue back there. This guy can actually get outside the pocket and make those big plays that you need. And you leave him with 10 fucking seconds. And your excuse as the coach was the intent was for the ball to go out of the end zone. Well, whose fault is that? That's your fault. You told your kicker to do his best, try to get it out of the back of the end zone. Well, you can't kick it farther than you can kick it. Now can you, bud? He kicked it as hard as he could. Didn't get out of the back of the end zone. What's the simple solution? Oh, I know. Kick it out of bounds, you fucking idiot. Right out of bounds to the sidelines. It's right fucking there. And you as an NFL coach or a coaching staff, a front office, an organization, millions and millions and millions of dollars. and all your fans with all the expectations and all the training and all the practices and all of the things that you do, and you don't know to do that? What in the fuck are we doing here? It's just inexcusable to me. It's an unforced error. You're talking about guys at the highest level. These are supposed to be the biggest brains in sports, and they do shit like that. It's just unforgivable, man. You have to know that as a football team. You have to know that you can kick it out of bounds and it puts them at the 40. What's the difference? What's the difference? 5 yards? 40 seconds, 5 yards. You do the fucking math, right? I'm not crazy. I'm telling you guys, this is unforgivable. If I don't know why the rest of the media isn't making a bigger deal out of this. It's an unforced error. They just give it to you. It's just there for you. Just take it. Kick it out of bounds. It's just there. Nope. Everybody wants to talk about how Caleb choked it away and the Vikings came back and all this miraculous shit and how J.J. McCarthy is the real story from bringing him back and all that shit. And guess what? All that could be true. But we will never know the ending to the storyline of if Caleb, does he pull one out of his ass with 50 seconds left in the game and start his team didn't give him the shot. The coaches didn't give him the shot. So that is why that's my number one storyline. If you know me at all, you know this is the type of shit that bothers me the most, right? It's just unforced things, right? If you go out there and you're a quarterback and you make a bad read and you throw an interception, that's one thing, right? You're in the middle of the game. There's time is of a factor. You got to make decisions quick. Okay, great. This is just something you should know as a coaching staff, as a team. You should know this. It's situational awareness. And Bill Belichick used to preach that shit for years. Situational awareness. What situation are you in? Clock management is game management. Clock management is how you win football games in this league. And it's just absolutely inexcusable to me to have that happen. If you're a Bears fan, you can't go out there, what are you going to do? Fire Ben Johnson? You can't fucking do that now, right? But make this guy fucking hear it. That's unexcusable, buddy. Inexcusable, whatever the fucking word is. You can't have that shit. So I've seen it too many times in NFL games where these teams fuck up clock management situations at the end of the game, and I'm about fucking tired of it. There's no reason for that to ever be the case, right? No reason. If I know that, and this isn't my day job, and I know that, then this is a problem. This should be an obsession to the point where you know every single second situation, little tiny rule, nerd the fuck out on all of that. That's how you win football games, because the football is such a complicated form of chess that every situation, every game is going to be different than the other. But if you really nerd out on the game, you're going to know these things, man. And yeah, that was the number one storyline for me, is just, first of all, the Bears doing that. And second of all, nobody really outcrying about it. How is this not a bigger deal? You know? So, anyway, those are my 2 cents. Those are the 6 storylines that I got from the game. And so, tell me what you guys think. What did you guys think of Week 1's action? I felt great. I'm a Chargers fan, so I'm coming out of here feeling absolutely fantastic about everything that's going on for my team. But how are you guys feeling? You guys feel like your teams are on the up and up? Do you feel like you guys are going to be able to win the Super Bowl? Do we still, everybody's feeling good coming into the year about winning the Super Bowl, right? How are we feeling after Week 1? Let me know in the comments. Whatever your team is, I don't care who it is. Tell me how you're feeling about your team, because I want to know. I want to know. I know for myself, I'm feeling pretty great. I'm still going to temper expectations. And even though everybody wants to kill the Chiefs, I'm not doing that yet, because I've seen this story one too many times. But at the end of the day, I'm feeling great. I'm a Chargers fan. So I love you guys. That is it for this week's episode. We are still going to be doing the type of episodes that we were doing last year at my regular podcast studio, which is behind me here. But we're going to be doing that only once every 4 weeks. We're going to be doing quarterly, midway point, third quarter, and end of year awards. And that's how we'll be doing them, is right over there. So appreciate you guys being here. I love you guys. I will see you guys next time. Peace out. Peace.